Earlier this week, the Huawei P20 hit the market, stunning all the reviewers in the room with a massive 40 megapixel sensor. But does this really help your photos, or is it going to drag you down in low light? Now, first of all, let's talk about sensor to pixel size proportions. If you have a giant sensor and you had one pixel on it, that pixel is going to get a lot of light, but it's going to be super blurry or just a single color image because there's only one pixel. Let's increase that to 1,000,000 pixels. If you have 1,000,000 pixels on a 35mm full frame sensor, that was not 35 millimeters, by the way, 1/1,000,000th of the amount of light hitting each pixel. That's still a huge quantity of light compared to the ones that most cameras have nowadays, considering that even professional grade cameras have 25 megapixels on a full frame sensor. Now, a single megapixel is 1,000,000 pixels. In my example scenario, that sensor's pixels would be able to gather 25 times more light than each of the pixels in a 5D Mark IV. I'm sure most of you understand this, but if you have a bigger pixel, the more light that can reach it, meaning there's less digital pushing of the image that you have to do. You don't have to crank up your ISO as much. Most of you guys who are watching my channel are not camera geeks, but they're actually phone geeks. And as most of you guys know, the Galaxy Note 7, yes, the one that exploded, when it first came out, it actually had 13 megapixels instead of Galaxy Note 5's 16 megapixels. Now that's a 3,000,000 less pixel difference. The reason Samsung did this is because at 13 megapixels, the image is still perfectly clear and sharp, but having 3,000,000 less pixels means that each pixel is considerably larger, allowing each individual pixel to gather a lot more light. Now this is really hard to describe from just a spec bump where you lost 3 megapixels, which people will complain about. Now the Huawei P20 went above and beyond this scenario and pushed it up to 40 megapixels instead of shrinking their pixel count. I'm not saying shrinking your pixel count is the only way to solve this. Better processing could be one way, or just having a bigger sensor. Almost every smartphone sensor is 1/3 of an inch. Most of them have 12 to 13 million pixels on that 1/3 of an inch sensor. In comparison, professional grade DSLRs like the 5D Mark IV has 24 million pixels on a 35mm sensor. Now that is a huge difference in the size of the pixels. Having huge pixels is not a good thing because then it makes the image look blurrier. But after a certain point, having more pixels can only mean good things for the creator, because if you need to crop in a lot, or if you're making giant billboards, then you need those extra pixels. However, if you're just the average Joe posting on Instagram, anything above 8 megapixels will not really be a big difference. That's why photographers like Tyler Stallman shoot in medium RAW instead of full RAW, because he doesn't need full resolution. So let's think this through for a moment. From a theoretical perspective, the Huawei P20 has a 1/3 inch sensor that has 40 million pixels on it. And obviously Huawei is trying to make its camera comparable to a DSLR. So let's compare it with a 5D Mark IV. Now I know this is way outside of the league of a P20. I'm just trying to compare a higher end smartphone camera and a professional grade DSLR, and either way each has its pros and cons. But if the phone can remove its con of being less high quality or close enough to the DSLR, then its benefits will far outweigh a DSLR's, and there won't be really a need to buy a DSLR anymore. So the Huawei P20, 1/3 inch sensor, and it has 40 million pixels. On the other hand, the 5D Mark IV, 35mm full frame sensor with 24 megapixels. Or 24 million pixels. The size of the pixels is drastically bigger on the 5D Mark IV, and the ISO performance is also much better than on any smartphone. However, when we're comparing smartphone to smartphone, Huawei P20 beats out the less megapixel Pixel 2 XL, which is also known as the low light king, simply because of better digital noise processing. Now, people argue that optics are more important than computational photography. I completely disagree. Optics are good, helpful measures, but computational photography is really what perfects your shot in any situation, especially on mobile devices. However, when we're comparing the Huawei P20's 40 megapixel sensor to a 5D Mark IV, the 5D Mark IV obviously obliterates it. Is having super high megapixel counts on a 1/3 inch sensor really make a big difference in quality? Yes, compared to other phones, the P20 has incredible tack sharpness. Now that might be because of the lens. The Leica lenses are fantastic, and of course this is a smartphone version, but still Leica glass is fantastic all around. Better noise processing from the Snapdragon 845 may have also led to it crispy photos in most circumstances, and dynamic range and everything of that sort will be fixed by the computer algorithms. So computational photography is really exciting for the average user, but it does mean that photography as an art is slowly fading away. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, click the like button. If you loved it, click the subscribe button. And as always, stay techtastic.